Hi, my name is Madeleine Bullen.
And I'm Hannah Alford.
And welcome to Cine-pop Reacts. Today, we are joined by two very special guests. We have Bullen and Joelle Canary. They're here to talk with us about the Justice League, the Snyder Cut. Now, fair warning, we will be talking about spoilers for the movie. So if you have not watched the Snyder Cut yet, go ahead and stop now. Go watch the 4-hour movie. Come back. We could talk about it. Also, if you've seen the original cut and think, oh, it's fine. I've seen that. I don't need to worry about spoilers. You need to worry about spoilers. So stop it now. They're different movies. That's pretty much what we're here to discuss.
Tagline on HBO is new story, new villains.
New characters.
New characters
Yeah,
in
pretty
general.
much.
Yeah. It is new. So if you haven't seen the Snyder Cut, go ahead and stop now and then come back and join us. So real quick thing, what is the Snyder Cut? So the Snyder Cut's basically, it's basically like the director's cut of a movie. Mm-hmm. If the director stayed the director, which didn't happen.
No.
So the original Justice League film was released a couple of years ago.
Yeah, like 2017 or
2018, yeah. And there was a lot of controversy surrounding the whole filming process, the whole production. Zack Snyder was originally the director and his wife was the producer for the movie. And then they had a family tragedy. Their daughter committed suicide very, very sadly. And they kind of either got pushed off the movie or removed themselves from the movie. That's still unclear. It wasn't during filming. It was during
post.
Yeah. So they'd already filmed this whole movie.
Yeah.
And so then they went ahead and got taken off the project and they brought in
Joss Whedon
of
Firefly and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and more importantly of Avengers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they brought him in to, and what was kind of put out into the world was we brought him in to fix the mess that Snyder made.
Yeah.
And that he was going to come in and fix it, and basically it was going to be the DC version of Avengers.
And what was sad was, at that point in time, after Batman v Superman and after Man of Steel, everyone kind of believed it, because I enjoyed those movies. They were fun. They were kind of a mess, though.
They were a mess. Did not enjoy them particularly much, and very not of DC fans.
So Zack Snyder's reputation was that his movies were a hot mess, and that's kind of what we had seen. So when they replaced him, we were like, oh, wow, that must have been bad. And so they did a bunch of reshoots. They spent millions of dollars. They brought back Gal Gadot while she was pregnant. They brought back all of these actors, did all these reshoots. And then we're kind of like, here's the best we could do. Have a Justice League.
Yeah.
Was kind of the attitude that everyone came
People
out.
were mad. Ray Fisher and Jason Momoa went on a campaign to get the Snyder Cut released.
Yeah,
I don't blame them.
They refused to do press. Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg, he refused to do press for the original cut because he was barely in the movie, and he was like, "This is stupid.
It's not what I made."
So there was and no one liked Justice League. I'm pretty sure box office did okay, but wasn't great.
They didn't make back their money.
They spent millions.
For superhero movie money, it definitely was considered a major flop.
Yeah, it was maybe a flop. Yeah. And we kind of thought that was the end of it, and then they moved on to Shazam and Aquaman and all these other films. And then it was announced last year that Zack Snyder somehow had gotten permission to do his cut of the film. So they went back. I think they did a few little pickups here and there. I know they reshot, they re-edited
everything,
and kind of reverted back to what they thought. And they were gonna release it on HBO Max, which means there was no time limit. So basically they're like, have fun. Everyone thinks you suck at movie making, so just do your thing.
Yeah. There's nowhere to go but up.
Exactly. And so that was kind of what we were left going to. So like, what were your we just finished watching it, so what's your initial response?
And full disclosure, we haven't seen the original cut of the Justice League. We were shielded from it, I guess, by design.
Yeah.
We were like, we were the
sacrificial lambs.
That. Yeah. So they watched it, so they kind of know more about that.
We jumped on the landmine and saved you all.
We appreciate
it. We appreciate it. We did not want to see it.
So I saw the original Justice League in theaters, and we recently rewatched it. And I left theaters being like, that was disappointing. It was a little better than Batman versus Superman, but not a lot. I also remember just kind of based on publicity thinking, wow, I can't imagine how terrible we must have started with this project to reshoot all this stuff and end up with this. Poor people was kind of what I was thinking.
See,
but I was very pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Like, my direction that I was kind of thinking it was going to go was a little bit more hopeful. So I took the official cut and was like, wow, this could only get better. I really hope that Snyder knew what he was doing and capitalized on everything that they kind of started but didn't finish in this movie.
Yeah, we had a conversation being like, I was the doom and gloom, being like, it's just going to be longer. It's
Yeah.
going to be worse and longer. And you were like, maybe it will
There's
be
so many things
better.
they could fix. And I feel like they did mostly.
Yeah, you were probably right.
Yeah.
What about you?
I really enjoyed it. I thought they spent way too much time on superfluous establishment shots and reaction shots, and the dialogue sometimes had large gaps that should have been filled. But I grew up watching the animated series of Batman and Superman and Justice League, and so these characters are kind of my childhood. And watching all the Easter eggs they threw in with like even Granny Goodness toward the end and the anti-life equation, it's like, oh man, yes.
Yeah. So some things that they did really well in this movie, they absolutely like told a good story.
Yeah.
It was an interesting story. It was an engaging story. It was complicated, but not like convoluted and unclear. People made logical choices that were driven
Yeah.
by emotions. And
Imagine that.
you'd think that would be a basic of storytelling, but that is not a given, especially in superhero movies, for people to make logic and like rational choices.
They were motivated. Everyone had a reason to be there and a reason to keep doing the things they were doing. It was really
So
a
in
step
that
away
way, it was
from
a really good movie.
Yeah.
Like, it was just a solid story. It has some problems. Zack Snyder overuses slow-mo
Oh
to
my
the
goodness.
nth
That's
degree.
true.
To
And
be
every
fair,
time we
though,
swish a cape,
I
To
was
be
like,
fair,
come on,
you
speed
know
up,
what you're
people.
getting into when you walk into a Zack
know.
Snyder movie. He's the
Just
guy
a-
that directed 300.
yeah, it's just
It's possible they could have chopped half an hour off the runtime if they had just dispensed with
it's just a lot
slow-mo.
of slow-mo. So there's that. We have a little bit
Sometimes
of a
it's cool. It's just overdone.
Yeah.
and there's a little bit of a sun flare issue where we constantly sun flare. We get a little bit.
There must always be particles in the air.
Yeah, we
It's
love-
Zack Snyder things.
we have to play
but-
football in the snow just so there's particles.
The graphics weren't up to scratch, I don't think, either.
Okay,
there
so
were
there's
some
this
lighting issues.
Well, there was this whole thing because he wanted to preserve the integrity of the something or other and put it in a different format than most films.
Okay.
And people make fun of him for it constantly
Yeah,
because it
I
doesn't
think we
make any
should.
sense.
Yeah.
The other things that were so great, the scoring wasn't fantastic.
Didn't make sense.
And no offense to anyone who worked on the scoring.
No.
The music itself was a fine piece of music. It just didn't fit. I say
Where it
it
was placed.
Any of it fit where you think it should.
So, like, there's several examples.
Yeah.
One is that they were like sneaking into like a fortress and playing like really heavy rock and roll, which is not sneaky music. Another example is when we're introducing Aquaman. He's like out on a pier drinking beer,
Whiskey.
Straight whiskey
straight
from a
whiskey
bottle.
from a bottle
Slams
with
the
a
bottle
storm,
down on the ground.
waves everywhere. It's
Yep.
epic. We're playing like slow jazz in the background, so it's just like elevator
Yeah, it's
music.
elevator music.
And every time Wonder Woman does anything, there's like a screamy kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little bit like that, and that didn't make sense. It was just like, this is the Amazon music.
It was like battle cries.
Which it established.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time.
You knew what you were getting every time.
That's true.
But it didn't make a lot of sense. So there were some music issues. I didn't love those. They went kind of different with the Amazon, like especially the costume. Their fight
Yeah.
sequence was cool.
Yeah.
But they decided to go ahead and revert them closer back to where they were in the comic books, what the original art was, which isn't inherently bad. But in the Patty Jenkins movies of Wonder Woman, they kind of created this whole culture, and they wore clothes, and
Full
their hair
armor.
was pulled back out of their face.
Like warriors.
They didn't
Yeah.
wear makeup. And it was like, yeah, no, I could buy like this warrior like race, and it's cool. And then they didn't.
And then
with
they
this.
did it. It was kind of like armor bikinis.
Yeah,
and
we
then they
reverted to like treated leather bikinis, and there were some metal accents
Yeah.
on them.
Yeah.
It just didn't make a lot of
Yeah, it's-
sense just because they had established this world already and with a female costume designer, and then whatever this costume designer was trying to do, whether he was trying to get it back toward the original.
It just looked really bad to have the male costume designer take off the women's clothes, especially like with our current climate, I think it was a very poor
It was just
decision.
in poor taste. So there's some things like that they kind of let slide through that honestly in
Decrease,
the reshoot or in the Snyder Cut they could have gone back and CGI'd better armor on them, and they chose not to because most of their armor is CGI'd. It's only like most of the movie is CGI'd. That would be my complaint. Is sometimes they could have done things practically, and they chose CGI, and some of it's really cool.
Well, and even their armor was CGI, even though the costumers made that armor for the Patty Jenkins films, so we owned it, and the people had the same costumes. Like, they had their physical costumes and the same actors. We could have just put their costumes on, saved the budget.
As I recall, I could be mistaken on this, but I'm pretty sure that they were filming Wonder Woman at the same time.
They were.
And maybe that's what
there's definitely some, but it kind of removes the whole Wonder Woman from this universe because it's like, oh, this is our... Like, that's your version of it. Our version of it has less clothing, which was awkward. So there's some things like that. Also, I think we should just go ahead and clarify. This movie is rated R.
Yes.
It is very gory.
Yes.
It has some F-bombs. It has some language. But mostly, it is just bloody.
There's a lot of blood.
It's what I... So... A lot of superhero movies, Avengers included, the combat is very stylized and comic book-esque in a lot of ways. It is not as much that way in this movie. They do fight like they're actually fighting.
And when you cut people, they bleed.
They bleed.
And
when you throw someone against a wall, it leaves a smear.
Yeah. Right. And that's just a lot. So
we cut people in half. We lose heads. Like, especially because most people have, like, Aquaman has a trident.
They have sharp
and
weapons.
Diana has a sword. So
it's a lot of that. So just fair warning when we are talking about this, it's not the same as a normal like Avengers. It's not a PG-13. Most teenagers can watch it. It's just a little bit intense kind of movie. Yeah. It's rated R for a legitimate reason. Yeah. But yes, those are some of the things that just the movie of itself I think is a good movie. Mm-hmm. Now, we have not seen the original cut. So what are some things that have changed from that or some things that stayed the same?
Well, they added characters. They sort of predominantly, they added the main villain.
Was removed from the public cut?
So,
the original
it's the
cut?
original cut.
Okay.
Yeah. So you guys said during the film,
cut.
Steppenwolf was the main bad guy in the original.
He was the only bad guy.
He was the only bad guy in the original.
He was the only bad guy.
Okay. Yeah. So Darkseid, Desaad, all of those guys were not there.
Yes. In the official cut, Steppenwolf was a henchman. In the Snyder cut,
no, the other way around.
All the way around.
In the Snyder cut, he was a henchman of like a bigger force of evil.
Yeah, that's
in
what I
the original cut, he was acting on his own to appease his mother.
Yes.
He just kept on talking about like, a mother will be so disappointed in me. And we don't know who his mother is. I thought he was talking about the Queen of the Amazons for a few minutes, and then I was very confused.
Hippolyta.
And they're talking about, my assumption is they talk about the mother cubes? Mother boxes, whatever the boxes are.
So the cubes will be disappointed?
I think there was a person. He talked about contacting her.
You're sure it was Mother?
Yes.
Yes, it was
He said
Mother.
that like 65 times.
I must speak with Mother about this and like things like that.
It kind of sounded like a British man who was very concerned of disappointing his elderly grandmother.
It was very weird.
So
not
in the Snyder cut, he was like a henchman to Darkseid and was trying to open up and destroy all these universes in order to be accepted and brought back to his home. It was actually kind of a sad moment where he just wanted to go home and
by destroying
planets, which takes away from the sadness.
It does.
Yeah. So they took that whole part out. So there were lots of like video game quality dialogue of the bad guy trying to justify why he was doing what he was doing.
It was like villain monologuing, but it was just bland.
Because that's one of the things I liked about this one is everyone had motive to be there, including the bad guy.
He had
he had a reason to be there.
And it wasn't just world domination.
Yeah.
No.
And Darkseid is looking, I mean, he likes to destroy worlds for fun. That's his MO. But like, he also is looking for the anti-life formula. Equation.
Yep.
Yes. The anti-life equation, which happens to be on the Earth. It's just the surface of the Earth holds the
I would have,
equation.
as someone who isn't familiar with the comic books, would have loved if they explained what that was a little bit more, just because I was like, sure, there's like a math problem in the world. I don't know what we're talking about.
So they did explain it. They did briefly touch on, it would allow him to go back and remake everything. In previous versions, it talks about him remaking the world in his own image.
Yeah. Another thing is that they reskinned him, I guess, for the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
So he kind of looked like What do you look like? He looked like
He was like an angry fawn type creature.
He had the same like horns, but he was
Yeah.
wearing like chainmail and he had hooves and
Yeah, he had hooves.
So-
just
that
that
was
a
wasn't
big
very
change.
menacing.
He had hooves?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he had like his
Why do you
feet
have
were
hooves?
hooves.
I don't know.
He kicked people.
He did. He
That
like
is
goat
not
kicked
what was
people.
in the Snyder Cut.
I don't,
There was some
he,
horse
did
kicking.
He have like pants? I don't remember.
So he has armor in.
He has like, but it's like
Other
boring. It's like
things.
just chainmail.
It looks sort of
Okay.
Norse.
Yeah, it kind of looked like
Yeah.
I can go with that.
Norse.
So in Snyder Cut, he has this really cool like
Living armor.
living
almost,
armor, yeah, where and it's like spiky and it looks like layers of like spikes that like move and
kind
They
of with his
react with
emotions.
his emotions,
yeah,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just cool
Yeah.
and it's intimidating and cool, and he does not have hooves.
Yeah.
He might.
Maybe he does. We
No,
didn't really
he
look at
didn't.
his feet.
I checked. I was very definitive about hooves.
You were looking for the hooves.
Yeah.
Yeah, he also like had this cool moment where he like took off part of his armor. I thought that was really
Yeah,
cool
it's
to
the
like watch how the
vulnerable-
armor comes on.
Because when
and
he
off.
was like kneeling before.
Yeah, before the
Darkseid
who he
and-
was trying to please and appease.
Another major thing is that for Cyborg, they really took out his character and his story
Yeah.
and his father.
Yeah. So there were a number of characters in this movie, both versions, that we had not really seen before in a DC movie. And so this movie needed to be sort of an origin story for all of those characters.
Yeah.
And in the official cut, it did not do that at all. In the Snyder Cut, it did a pretty spectacular job
Yeah.
of incorporating origin stories into the overall plot of the movie. And it like pulled everyone into what was going on in the world, and it was great.
Yeah.
Didn't do that at all with the official cut.
In the official cut, it was just Batman goes back and is talking to Alfred, and he's like, "We need some people," and he's like, "I can find you some people." And so they like get on their little computer and are like, "Let's grab this dude." So they like run and are like, "Hi, you want to join our team?" And they're like, "Heck yeah, I do."
Well,
that
Flash
was
was like,
Flash,
heck yeah. Everyone else was like, no,
I can't do it.
and then suddenly they just show up later
because they should
because reasons.
reasons. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very different. The Snyder Cut, one of the things I liked was that that's what it had to be a 4-hour movie. Well, it didn't have to be a 4-hour movie, but like the reason I
could've been
enjoyed it
3,
being
yeah.
longer was that they took the time to have those origin stories that
Yeah.
we didn't have for like Flash
They
and for
got you
Cyborg.
invested in
and-
the characters.
Yeah.
Well, so Cyborg in the Snyder Cut, it goes through like his whole going through this debilitating accident where he almost died, and then
mother did die.
His mother
Yeah.
did die in this
Yeah.
car accident, and then his father like gives him some of the weird mother box technology, and it brings Cyborg back to life. But then he's Cyborg, so he's all
Yeah.
And
mentally.
his relationship with his father is really hard because his father wasn't there for him necessarily, and then turned him into a cyborg, which he was not a huge fan of.
Very
His
deep.
Not
father
thrilled.
also seemed aware of what his powers were and told him.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
established
That's
what
not-
he could do.
That's not what happened in the.
No.
He's like has this really broody scene where he's like looking at the window and
Into
he's
the
just
rain
like,
at
Yeah.
night.
you
of
made
course.
me a monster, and he's like, I wanted to save your life, and he's like, well, you should have let me die.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
don't say that
Um,
in Snyder
No.
Cut.
And then he's like, every day is agony,
No,
and
didn't talk about that.
I continue to develop strange powers, and I don't understand them. And then the father's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Snyder Cut, he left him a voice recording that's like, this is all the things you can do and
Try
why.
this.
Yeah.
You should work on
Press
that.
Y.
Also, I love you, and I'm so
Yeah.
sorry that I wasn't
No.
there for you as a child. And it was a nice moment. So,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah. Also, the father's just really
Why?
incorporated into the story. So there's lots of moments where his father, who works in Star Labs, kind of helps them get the things that they need
Yeah.
and helps try to protect the world and protect the boxes.
Ultimately sacrifices himself.
Yes.
in front of Cyborg, which was
Yeah.
a really,
Yeah.
like a
Very traumatic.
traumatic moment, but gave a lot of character development for Cyborg.
Exactly.
And he couldn't save his dad, and he lost his chance to reconcile, and like it
Yeah.
was very sad.
No, we don't have that. So he just looked like a really lousy actor.
Yeah.
Because that's what I
Across the
heard.
board.
I heard he was terrible.
I
Yeah.
thought he was.
but
Yeah,
he
I
was
did too.
fantastic in the Snyder
He was
Cut.
great in the Snyder Cut.
Well, and even just one of the probably primary problems with the original version is there's no reason that any of the characters know any of the information that they do.
No, there's not.
Oh.
There's really not.
I appreciate that in the Snyder Cut. They did like they had reasons for knowing what they know, and when they didn't know something, they took the time to figure it out through logical means.
Yeah.
Instead of just
We also really cut all of the battle scenes. So like when the box was taken from the Atlanteans, they basically Aquaman just kind of shows up, and I can't remember if it's already gone. but it's very nonchalant. Like, they're all kind of like, wow, you let this get taken.
Yeah.
That's on you, man.
Wow.
The fact that we don't know if Aquaman was there when his local cube was taken should tell you how nonchalant
In
it
the
was.
Snyder Cut,
Yeah.
there's the whole sequence of blood in the
yeah.
water. There's the people getting
Whips around
thrashed.
the
and-
floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one seemed really that concerned, so I wasn't that concerned that the box was missing.
Oh.
Same with like the Amazons. Like, we really cut the fight scene with them, where it just seemed like the Amazons were kind of wimps who just got knocked over and then he grabbed the box and
Which
ran
is so
away.
sad because they're really cool. And they
Yeah.
had all of this cool like horse stunt work
Yeah.
that they
Yeah.
did. And,
There-
like,
there was
That
a little
in
bit of
there,
that, too.
but-
Okay.
Yeah,
That's one of the
but
things I
not
liked about
much.
this one, though, is they didn't, like a lot of movies, superhero movies, make the mistake of depowering people
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make their bad guys look stronger until the very end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they bring everyone right back up to snuff. In this one, they let everyone be awesome.
Yeah.
The bad guy was just more awesome.
Yeah.
So we're gonna talk about the end real fast.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it apparently is very
Yes.
different. So
It's
in the
very
Snyder Cut, it's this they work as a team. The Justice League comes together, the Flash runs faster than actual time to reverse a mistake. Cyborg has to come
Get
to
inside the cubes.
come inside the cubes and come to terms with the fact that he is not a broken person, that he is whole and he has friends, and that even with the cube's power, he's okay with his life as it is. It's
Superman comes in, and with him and all the rest of them together, they're able to overpower Steppenwolf and pull the cubes apart. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and
Stop
even
Darkseid.
just like when they brought back Superman, it was a much bigger deal in the Snyder Cut. There was a lot more concern about all of the gravity that could come with it. Even Cyborg's has this vision that all of the Justice League dies and the world is taken over by evil Superman.
before they
Right
release
before they
Superman.
release him, and he's like,
Yeah.
"No, don't do it," but too late. So they didn't do that in the original cut.
No.
They were
None
just
of
kind of like, it might work, it might not.
Yeah. There were
We'll
no
see
there were
it.
no consequences.
Oh.
Yeah,
That's sad. That's really sad.
yeah,
That kind of lowers the stakes of the whole
it does. Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Well, and even so in the scene where Superman is battling the Justice League, which is in both versions, like most of that fight sequence is in both.
Okay.
But Superman's really annoyed at Wayne from bringing him back from the dead. He's
I
like,
love
you
that
know,
you said annoyed and not angry or
he
some
just seems
strong
kind of
emotion.
miffed. Like, he's trying to kill him.
Yeah.
He's just kind of like, you don't like me alive or dead. What do you want from me, man?
Yeah. Which is an odd rationale.
And so Batman just kind of throws Lois Lane at him and is like, "This is my plan. Here, take her." And then
Yeah.
she's just kind of like, "Honey," and then he grabs her and
love you.
flies off, and we're just like,
Yeah.
"Is she okay?"
In the Snyder Cut, Lois happened to be there, which was a pre-established thing
Yeah.
from earlier in the movie, that she goes to the memorial of Superman every day, and that's where this fight scene happened, and that she was not the backup plan. She just chose to see her, love of
Yeah.
her life, and goes and steps in front of him as he's about
Exactly.
to kill Batman and calms him down. It's like, let's go,
Yeah.
honey. Let's go find
So
somewhere else.
instead of Kryptonite being the backup plan, Lois Lane was the backup plan.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So then after that, he and Lois Lane run off to a field for a while and have some nice heart to
And in the
hearts.
Snyder Cut, that was my favorite Lois and Clark, and that was my favorite interaction they've had in all the movies, because it felt natural. They felt connected. I believed that they liked each other.
Yeah.
I believed they were in love. I was happy with it. I was like, I feel something with them, which hadn't happened, honestly.
That was the first time that I can remember that they let Superman be happy for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because almost every other moment you see them together in the other films, he's brooding about something.
Yeah. While he's doing that, the rest of the Justice League gets on a plane, and Cyborg's like, "I'll get us to this place that the bad guys are at that we don't really know where it is." But
Yeah. They were kind of just like, where would I make a secret base if I was a villain?
Siberia?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That sounds right.
that sounds right. So they just kind of, from random circumstances, are kind of like, this is probably where he is. So they're right. It was where the bad guys were. And they are in the plane, and they're like, okay, what's the plan? And we don't really hear what the plan is. That was just, they had a little planning meeting without us. And then, so we thought during that planning meeting, they were all on the same page.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Of the plan.
Yeah.
So then the plane lands, and Batman's like, stick to the plan. And we're like, okay, we're gonna see what this plan is. did something go wrong with the plan? I was very unsure.
That's not the sense I got. The dialogue is confusing in that version, but the sense I got was that Batman goes, all right, as we all know, the plan is for me to go on a suicide mission and draw all of the bad guys out so that you can save the day. And we would imagine they would all have been cool with this during the planning meeting. Suddenly, they realized...
were like, wait, that means you would die.
That's not allowed. We have to abandon our entire goal and save you from these monsters.
Okay, so the fight scene when they actually got to like the city where Steppenwolf and his little army was, that was like the coolest fight scene.
It was. Yeah. It was in the night. It was dark, and there were explosions.
They showcased everybody's abilities.
Everyone's fighting style was so unique and cool, and it was just
working together.
Yeah, so they didn't have that.
No.
So when Superman comes in the version we watched, I say our version, the Snyder Cut, the one we watched, it was like a great moment. He comes in, he helps defeat Steppenwolf with like everyone. It's a team. It's a very gruesome murder. Was that?
Well, there was some gross parts, but like Diana had pretty much been fending off the dude by herself. Like Aquaman kind of helped some.
Yeah. But then she conveniently became inept shortly before Superman arrived.
Yeah, so she just got really lousy at fighting all of a sudden, and we tore off Cyborg's like arm or leg or something, and like threw him off a cliff,
which did not happen.
Threw him back up on the cliff, or somehow they got him back to the top, and they're like, keep working. And then they got really bad at fighting because, like, I guess a rock fell on Aquaman and she was like pushing it off of him or something.
I think that was Snyder.
That was
no, but it happened in both. But so then Superman in his blue and red outfit instead of the black one.
Okay, so using the black and white outfit for the Snyder Cut, which I am convinced served no purpose other than to just make true nerds nervous. Because when you saw it in the trailer, you're like, oh no, that is the costume of evil Superman, henchman of Darkseid. Yeah. So we were all like the nerdy people
They're gonna brainwash Superman.
Yes! Oh no! Or yes.
I guess.
But like,
no,
I'm convinced they just put it in the Snyder Cut just to make fans nervous.
Yeah,
but they didn't even do it.
No, they just Superman was inexplicably went from the cornfield to knowing everything that was about to happen, even though he was dead a few hours ago, and somehow knew they were in Siberia. And so, right when they needed him, he burst through the wall. While the villain was going on a long monologue about how he was going to kill Diana because he is the truth and there is no real truth. He said the truth a lot.
He did.
Which they never said in the Snyder Cut at all.
Well,
there's nothing about truth.
I'm okay with that.
You see, when you are the only bad guy, you do have to monologue some, and we have no justification.
Yeah, especially if your motives are unclear.
They had no time for motives, but they had time for monologues.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
Yeah, so because he didn't have any motivation for doing anything, he was just kind of riffing on how he was right and how his mother will be so pleased with him and the truth will set you free I am the truth.
Did they just think that because of Batman versus Superman, DC fans had a thing for mothers?
I don't know.
That's possible. That's entirely possible.
Okay.
Mothers are the reason for all of our
Everything.
actions.
It's the only motive we need.
His mom.
So,
or Martha.
Yeah.
Superman bursts in the middle of this monologue and he says something really dumb. What did he say?
I don't remember exactly. I remember when we were watching it, we both simultaneously just went,
oh no.
It was something like, the truth. I like the truth, but you know what I like more? Justice. It was pretty much what he said, give or take a few words. But so that
I just really want a superhero to say the truth. I like the truth. Not even the truth is morally good.
No, it was something really lame. I am a fan of that. I'm also a fan of justice.
Yeah.
So then he punches him a few times, and then it's there are people here, and so flies away to go save the people that Flash has been saving for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Because the Flash is slow?
The Flash is super slow.
Yeah.
Wow.
They also stop and have a race. They're I'm going to take this side of town. you take this side of town. We'll
Yeah,
see
something
who
like
gets
that.
done first.
I mean, that is a
Oh.
comic book thing of like that's like a
Well, yeah.
who can beat who in a
Who's
race, but
faster?
not in the middle of the end of the world.
Let's just make this a
Yeah.
competition. Who can save more people?
Yeah.
So then, like, Aquaman and Wonder Woman and Cyborg are just kind of standing around,
Yeah.
like,
And they-
he's still trying to, like, separate the cubes, and
They like struggle with Steppenwolf a little bit more
That's
for a little longer.
Big moment for Ray Fisher's Cyborg, though, is him coming to terms because the cubes are showing him his family, and we
Yeah.
could just be
No.
together.
Which is a thing that totally happens in the official cut.
yeah, no.
100%.
No, he just is trying to push them apart, and
Yeah.
apparently not good at it.
Yeah.
Which is
okay.
kind of sad, but as soon as Superman gets there, all of the heroes relax. They're like, we're fine.
Yeah.
Like, we got this.
It feels like we've
Beaten
passed
the bad guy.
the climax and we're on.
Even though the cubes
No,
were
yeah.
still like together, they were like all of them had like this sense of there's no way that the cubes are actually going to go together now.
but I
with
guess
Superman.
if
But
there's
this
no
is
dark
my
side,
Problem.
there's
yeah.
no real conflict, and there's nothing that will come after the cubes.
No.
But this was
Okay.
my problem with most of the other DC films that include Superman, is that's always the attitude of like, oh, it's Superman, we're fine.
He's the Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's always bothered me. But what I liked about the Snyder Cut was that he wasn't, like, he came to help and they needed his help,
Yeah.
but he didn't fix it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Cyborg and Flash actually still
Yeah.
fixed
Yeah.
it. And Flash ran, like, forward and back in time at the same time to fix it. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's this cool moment where the cubes, they lost, like the cubes came
Yeah.
together because Flash had accidentally, like he got shot and so had stopped running and
Yeah.
hadn't been able to do his part of separating the blocks. And so he like realizes it's the end of the world and like runs fast enough to run back in time and do the job that he was supposed to.
It's a nice, like, story arc for him. That's what
Yeah.
I liked, is that both Flash and Cyborg had, like, a resolution to their earlier, so like we established who they were, we established some flaws they had, we established this, they grew, and then in the final battle each had a moment to shine and like to come to
Yeah.
terms with something about themselves
Yeah.
and grow and be better from it, which you
But
don't
none-
normally see in
No.
fights. So the fact they
No.
took the
Well,
time
and
to
it
do
was
that in
a-
the Snyder Cut
a
was
not realistic, but like a way that
Yeah.
it came up in fight and wasn't like, I'm just gonna set myself now. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't how
It
it
didn't feel
came.
forced.
It didn't feel
No.
forced.
Okay.
It feel like it was necessary for them to overcome those obstacles in order to get
Yeah.
the outcome.
Yeah.
So after Superman like runs around having a little race with the Flash because we don't care about time or pressure, he like comes in, pretty much just like punches him a few times, pushes the cubes like pushes Cyborg aside, pushes the cubes apart, saves the day. And then the strange part is the bugs or the parademons or whatever the henchmen of Steppenwolf are. I guess in the first few minutes we had established that they smelled fear.
Yeah.
The bad guy after his Superman
Axe
freezes the axe and then Wonder Woman like comes and smashes it, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
And then he apparently gets very worried and fearful after the axe is smashed.
Oh.
And so they're all like coming in at him. The blocks have been separated. They're all kind of standing around him. And then all of his minions all of a sudden turn on him because I guess he's fearful
afraid.
now.
Yeah.
And they like raise him into the sky.
Yeah.
And then I
Much
guess
screaming is
they
had.
eat him or something. We don't really know what
But
they
it was
did.
the PG version, or PG-13 version, so we don't know.
Yeah, and then his helmet just plummets
And then we're
ominously
like,
to the ground.
Okay, good job, guys. And then
That was the end of the Justice
yeah,
movie.
even though
over.
it really was only Superman who did anything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Like Cyborg was like helped. He helped
if
with
he
the
and
cubes.
Cyborg had gone, they would have been just fine.
Yeah.
Well, I can see why they were angry.
Yeah, I can see the actors were very distraught. But I think I need to take a second and apologize to Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
Because I have ragged on him for years
Yeah.
about these movies, about Batman versus Superman, especially the Martha moment. I've mocked mercilessly. But like, I don't like Man of Steel at all. I can't stand the movie. It's one of my least favorite like superhero movies, and that's saying something. But like, I have to wonder, had Zack Snyder gotten to make the movies he wanted to make without any interference, without any editing, would they have been as cool as the Snyder Cut of the Justice League? Would they have been good movies? Or did he listen to what people were saying, what critics were saying, and then take it and apply it? But either way, I have to applaud him.
It's an interesting,
Yeah.
interesting question.
Yeah, we just don't know. But and he's come out and said before that the producers and the editors have changed his movies around.
Yeah.
And now we were always kind of like, sure,
Whatever
they
you
probably
say, buddy.
fixed it, buddy.
Yeah.
But like now I'm thinking maybe
Yeah.
they messed up his movies,
Yeah.
and I feel really bad that he's actually a really good filmmaker.
Yeah.
He has problems.
Slow
the film
motion,
was still
don't-
too. Yes.
need to-
Yes.
The slow
It
motion,
was
the
too
motion was
long.
rough.
film was too
but-
long.
Yeah.
It could have been a 3.5-hour movie, and
For
it
some
would have been
reason,
interesting.
they put pregnant pauses in every dialogue.
Yeah.
Way
did.
too long in every dialogue. They should have been cut out.
Speaking of pregnant, oh my goodness, is
Yeah.
Lois Lane actually pregnant?
Oh yeah, we did have a moment.
Where she took a pregnancy test, and then later Batman said, "Congratulations," nonchalantly. So we assume that means that
Yeah,
she's
while they were
pregnant.
moving back
No.
into his childhood home.
Yeah.
So question mark
We weren't
there.
sure if it
And
was
they're
like
engaged.
congratulations that you
On
are
him.
alive.
You have a house?
Well, she'd also not accepted his engagement proposal at the end of the last
Yeah,
movie.
exactly.
Right.
Oh,
So
that's true.
there's that as well.
And I
That is
don't
true.
know if it was supposed to say that they were trying to get pregnant before he died, and that was sad, or if she
It was a very strange,
pregnant,
like, throw-in
but-
moment. And I think the thing is they were setting up this whole, like, the continuation of these films.
That
was-
in
that was
the
not in the,
Snyder universe.
Wasn't
Wasn't
in
Yeah.
the
But the question
The-
is the Snyder universe gonna exist?
I'm thinking this probably not, because that's the reason that they would throw in that epilogue at the end, because they spoiled a major amount of plot
Yeah.
from like the Injustice series
Yeah.
in that epilogue moment, and it was great. I'm really happy for like Joe Manganiello and Jared Leto that they were able to have their moment in this film that was cut. But I don't know that they can actually make that film now that they've said as much as they have.
I think Snyder was like, I don't know if they're ever gonna let me make a movie again. I'm gonna throw
Just do
everything
it.
at the wall.
Yeah.
I kind of hope that this does change it, though. I hope that the
I
studio
do too.
sees the response that people are having to
Because
this.
it's a much better cut.
Yeah.
It's a much better
In
movie.
most ways.
Right, and I just don't understand why in the original cut we had a lot of footage here. Like we had enough
This footage
for
was
4-hour
shock.
movie,
Yeah.
and then another 2-hour movie, which had a lot of footage that this movie didn't have.
Yeah.
And so we made it a 2-hour film, even though most superhero movies
Are three.
are 3. It could have easily been 3 and been acceptable, but we like took all of this footage, we don't need any of that, and then made a very simple, boring version of the story.
Reshot the footage to make a simple version.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They had all of this and then
they,
reshot.
and then like
Yeah.
took explanations that were pretty good for things that are happening, and then we're like, nah, let's reshoot this.
It's too
and make
complicated.
it easier to understand. In the process of trying to make it easier to understand, they made it impossible to follow.
Yeah.
And
Very much
very, very confusing, because you were like, why is this happening? Why are you going there? Why are you doing these things? I can't tell you.
So, I mean, the studio really, like...
They really butchered it.
Really
yeah.
butchered
Yeah.
the whole thing. And I'm really glad that Snyder and his wife and the team that worked really hard on this movie, for all the actors, for Ray Fisher. I'm so glad this movie was made so we could all see it. Because honestly, all of us who've heard about it, all were like, oh, the guy who plays Cyborg can't act.
Yeah.
No, he can.
He
He's
can.
very
He's
good.
good.
They just really did him wrong on the original
Yeah.
cut. So overall, really glad that this movie was made. It is worth the 4 hours.
Oh,
I would
absolutely.
say.
We should pretend like the original cut doesn't exist personally.
It's not
good.
great.
Unless you want to laugh. but-
You did say your least favorite DC movie so far is Man of Steel.
Yes.
So I think the next time we do something like this,
Oh no.
it needs to be Batman and Robin
Oh yeah, that's
with
true.
the rubber nipples
Oh
and
no,
everything.
that's a terrible, terrible movie. That was also bad. There's some really bad DC movies out there, but this is not one of them. This is actually a really good. This is just a really good superhero movie, and this is the direction I hope that other DC movies go. I hope they see that giving you context, a character, letting there be humor and drama, and like just well-rounded people in telling a story makes it really fun and really like brings this comic book world to life, and I think does justice to the fans.
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like overall this is probably the closer to the like what fans wanted of DC.
It was
films.
just a lot of fun.
It was
And
just
it
a
felt
lot
like it
of fun.
could set up another film. And it felt like it could, you kind of saw Superman for a minute without Lois Lane. So you kind of believed that the end of the world
Things
could
could go
happen.
wrong.
if
Yeah,
she-
there's some cool things that they started, and
was
I'm really
wrong.
hoping
Yeah.
they get to keep going with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today for Cine-pop Reacts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, follow. We have Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We'd love to hear from you guys what movies you think we should react to next. And thank you very much.